And I think the biggest one, this can come across as blasphemous if you're not careful in certain schools, but really that each individual person, we are God, we are that divinity. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do.
And it took me a while to really kind of accept that equality with something which up until then I'd been told is outside of me, and it's almost some kind of man with a stick ready to punish me, to change from that mindset into you are that creative force which is realizing itself. It is you. It was huge.
Open arms right now. Welcome to love. Welcome to peace. Welcome to our community. Be who you are. Let your light shine. We're so much more when we unite. You are welcome here.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, and good day to you wherever you are at this very moment in time. Thank you, thank you, thank you for tuning into yourself first and then listening, because once you tune in, it is important to listen. And when you listen, you find that you're just transformed. So I'm grateful and thankful for you tuning in, listening, and giving yourself permission to be transformed. Welcome to another episode of Being You, episode 24, The Journey Back to Yourself. That's the self with a capital S. The self that is not moved, unbothered by what's going on in the world, is unbothered about if you're having a challenge or not, if you have money issues, relationship issues, health issues. There's a part of you that is just consistent, that is peaceful, that knows the truth. So this conversation is about reminding you, nudging you, supporting you, facilitating your journey back to that self. I am Ade, your beingness artist, also known as your transformational agent, transformational artist. Thank you for being here. It is all about how you see yourself and how you see yourself in the world. Because that's the most important thing. Doesn't matter what other people say about you. Doesn't matter what happened to you in the past. Doesn't matter what you see or don't see. What is more important is how you see yourself in the world and how you see the world in you. This journey back to the self is a process of creating and recreating. It is a process of dancing and listening and trusting and growing and stretching and resisting and allowing and crying and laughing. It all belongs. I have a guest with me today and I am excited. I feel the energy of our conversation. But before I introduce him, I want to tell you about my upcoming online class that's starting this Thursday, Vision with Action. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about it, but I want to invite you to check it out, lifecoachade.com, and then click online classes. It's a 10-week course where we take the visions, the dreams, the intentions that we have for our lives and put it into practice, put action behind it, where we get to address the things that we're afraid of. We get to confront the fear and realize that it has no power over us. We get to be different. We get to be the person who can bring about the vision, the dream, the goal, the intention. As I often say to people, the woman who got pregnant is not the one who is going to give birth. It's not the same woman who got pregnant that's going to give birth, because the woman that got pregnant she will go through all kind of changes, physically, mentally, emotionally, maybe even spiritually. She might have to change her diet. She would change her schedule. She might have to go see the doctor on a regular basis. She become more aware of her body, probably more than before. By the time the baby is coming out, she's not the same person who got pregnant. And that's the truth for us all the time anyway. And it doesn't even matter if you're a man, we get pregnant too. You're pregnant with ideas. So this is not just a female thing. We're all pregnant with divine ideas. And the question is, are you going to abort it because you're afraid that people will judge you? Or you're going to abort it because you think you don't have the resources to maintain, sustain the idea that wants to birth itself through and as you? But we must become someone different in order to birth it. And the great thing about it is we don't even have to know how because life will take care of it. We just have to cooperate with the laws of life. Once again, check out lifecoachade.com, lifecoachade.com, and click on online classes and register now. Get on the soul train of transformation. And now, well, today's different. Different because I have a guest and we're really having a conversation. And I'm excited because my guest is a man. Last time he checked. And last time I talked to him, it sounded like a man. He's a brother. He's originally from Ghana and then moved to UK. He's an African like myself, and that just excites me. So today's about two brothers speaking about their spiritual journey, their metaphysical journey, especially the fact that, generally speaking, I'll put it that way, that great things that come out of Africa are often demonized in the West. And we can say the same thing about African spirituality. Not only is African spirituality judged, it's even judged by those of us who grew up in the land because of what we were taught, because of the interruption and contamination of religion. So we're going to be sharing our journey and talk about how the hell were we able to break away from that BS and say, listen, I am reclaiming my power. Well, his name is Kevin Koranteng. Did I say it right, Kevin?
Yes, you did. Yes, Kevin Krant.
Cheeseman. He was born in Ghana. He grew up there until 1995 when he moved to London to live with his mother. Kevin spent a large part of his working life as an engineer at Ford before moving into self-empowerment. His dream is to create the Pack Back Society to provide backpacking scholarships as a way for individuals to delve into the self and discover spirit in their own way. He's the author of many books and he's still writing. He's very creative. The Pocket Book of Little Big Things. And then there's the Monsoon Diary, as well as here's another one that I might jack up, but I'm going to take another stab at it. Asemsebe, right? Did I say it right?
Yeah, Asemsebe.
Okay. Now I have compassion for people when they jack my name up. So I'm like, just stop it, okay? But now I have a deeper compassion for them. How are you doing? How are you doing, my brother?
I'm doing very well, very, very well, Eddie. And thank you for inviting me to share space on this podcast. I listen to it quite regularly because it resonates really well with me, and it's nice to have this chance to converse with you.
I'm grateful to have you, man. I don't think I actually told you because when I got your email sometime last year, and at that time I used to do, as well as a podcast, I was also doing a broadcast on Facebook and on Instagram. And I remember sharing what that meant to me, to hear from another man, to hear from another black man, to hear from a black man who is African, and just sharing, giving his feedback about the podcast and how he appreciated it. It just meant so much to me. We're going to talk more about that anyway. So I'm going to publicly thank you for reaching out and sharing your feedback. And it's just been really a blessing, and it's something that I'm grateful for. Hmm. So let's start with the beginning. And the beginning for me, or the beginning in this case, is the
Yeah.
name. So you're from Ghana. You were born in Ghana, but
Yeah.
your first name is Kevin, and your middle name is Koranteng, and your last name is Cheeseman. That's not a name
Yeah.
you think is from Ghana. And the thing about names for me is I think our name says a lot about us. And I feel like names have an energy. I know they have an energy because I have looked at people, the meaning of people's names, and I can see that that person is like that. Even those that people have a name, they've never looked it up. So when I ask them, especially if it's an English name, they're like, "It's just my name." I'm like, no, no, no. So we go look it up, and sometimes look at the numerological numbers aspect of it, and it's so fascinating to see people come alive when they hear the meaning of their names. So for you, like I'm curious to find out about this, your name, Kevin and Koranteng. I'm still feeling like I'm jacking it up, so please forgive me. The more I say, the better I
You're
get.
doing
Great.
well. You're doing well. Honestly, you've got it. You've
And
got
then
it.
your last name is Cheeseman. So tell us about your name.
Yeah. Yeah. That is it's always a good place to start, isn't it? Um, so I mean, Kevin is Kevin, but I was born in
You
the
said Kevin
eighties
is
when
Kevin.
yeah, like I was born in the eighties. There was TV and there was all sorts of things on TV from abroad. So and films, and I think my parents liked the name Kevin as a Christian name. I'm doing the inverted quote thing here, but you can't see it, as a
Right?
Christian name, yeah, and then Koranteng is my father's name. My father was George Koranteng. He was a biochemist in Ghana. Um, and then Cheeseman is my stepfather's name, because my mum remarried sometime later in her life, to a man called Mr. Cheeseman. And it's really I carry Gary's name's Gary Cheeseman, his name, because of he I have a lot of respect for him. At a time when people were so kind of a bit racist and just generally not very welcoming to
Mm,
black people. He sort of saw past all that and really, um, yeah, fell in love with my mum and was really kind of helpful in our teen years. So it's a sign of respect. You carry the names of people who mean
yes.
something to you, um, and that's really why. So I have my parents' name, and then I also have my stepfather's name, who had a significant
Oh
impact in my
wow.
life.
Wow. Wow. That's pretty awesome. That is pretty awesome. Yeah, and just to you know the importance. I mean, and there's some people, and I'm going to say this with the awareness that there's some people who will change their name because of their experience with their parent, their dad, with their mom, or whatever.
Yeah.
But there is also something to be said about how we feel about our names. I know for me, in living in UK and in America, there were times when I was sort of embarrassed to say my name because people couldn't pronounce it. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think I ever thought, no, I never thought of having an English name. Just no, never thought that. But it's just kind of like, I think the embarrassment was more, it made me stand out. And, and
Yeah.
especially if they're trying to say my last name, Anifowose. So if I go for a
Yeah.
visit, doctor's visit, or somewhere where I know they're going to call my last name, I almost don't even want them to say it. So when the person comes
Yeah.
out and
Yeah.
they're looking at something, especially if they take more than 3 seconds to try and they're looking at the paper, I'm like, I know they're about to call my name. So as soon as they say Ade, I'm up. I am getting up. It's like, don't worry, because When my last name is jacked up, it just does not feel right. So, you moved to UK. Oh, how old were you?
This was 95, so I would have been
Okay.
12.
What was that
Yeah.
transition like for
So
you?
I kind it wasn't the big things, because you from movies and that sort of stuff, you kind of know what London
Hmm.
looks like and those kind of things. So it's not it's the little nuances. So like the attitudes in the classroom, for example, was a really
Mm.
big one for me. Um, because in Ghana I was used to raise your hand and then wait to be called, etc., etc. That kind of disciplinarian approach. Whereas it was very different in a London classroom. Yeah, so that it was those little kind of nuances which kind of I found interesting. But there wasn't kind of big environmental thing, but really also, I mean, um, generally it was very very clean. You've kind of made it to the promised land, haven't you? So it's awesome. And for me, I quite enjoy it from this perspective. Growing up, I did all the stuff, climbing trees and running through the grass and bushes and doing naughty stuff, left, right, center in Ghana. And then just at the time when computer games and PlayStations and stuff made a step change, I kind of moved into London with that. So I had the best of both worlds in my kind of sort of way, where it was nice to have the kind of upbringing and the freedom as a child that most people, say, in the UK or the US, might not necessarily have, in terms of moving around and being outside all day long, and no fear about some bad person coming to get you or this or that, and being away from all that kind of fear based nonsense sometimes, really. Uh, so that was quite nice. And then coming to London, where it's all right to be indoors because you have a PlayStation and you, you know what I mean. You can watch films and VCRs and get the tapes stuck and try and rewind all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it was a best of both worlds. It was really good. It was really good. But yeah, I mean, um, uh, once you reach a certain age, so 12, you don't really lose certain aspects of yourself or your culture as such. You kind of still keep it with you, but you're still malleable enough to pick up, you know, things that may or may not serve you. You find this out in the future, but you're malleable enough to pick up other ideas and other ways of doing things, and then you have that two schools of thought, if
Hmm.
that makes sense. So for me, it's a good thing for how it
Mm.
happened for me. Yeah.
Yes, yes. You talking about the classroom experience reminded me of one that I had when I was in college, Southwark College in London, and you know, that was the first college I went to when I came back from Nigeria after being in Nigeria for like 14 years. And like you said, in Nigeria, like Ghana, like no, you don't mess around in the classroom. Even when the teacher's not in there,
Yeah.
you're not, because there's a, I don't know if you guys had what do they call it, head boy. Yeah, prefects,
Prefect,
exactly.
right?
So you had
Yeah,
somebody in
yeah,
charge,
yeah,
like you're making noise, or you're speaking no vernacular speaking, so because you're speaking your language.
that's the
So
one.
there was, you have to try and be on your p's and q's, right? You got to really kind of get things together.
Yeah, for
So when I
sure.
came back here, I remember being in one
Yeah.
of the class. I think it was math, yes, and the teacher's name was Errol, and it was kind of rowdy. I was beginning to get used to it. But one day, Errol and another student, his name is Robert, who was just like, oh, he got on my nerves, Robert. He caused me trauma. But anyway, something was going on between him and Errol will say something, and Robert, the student, will reply back. So I was like, okay, this is unusual. You don't do that. You never talk back to a teacher.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter what they say to you.
Exactly.
So that
You've just signed your death warrant.
yes,
You've literally just signed
exactly,
your death warrant.
exactly, and your back is gonna go to shreds because they're gonna
Yeah.
whoop every part of your back. You go
And then you're gonna go home and you're gonna get beats there as
right
well for
for
your
being
foolishness.
rude,
Yeah.
not respecting your elders. So they were going back and
Exactly.
forth, and at one point, Robert, the student, said to the teacher, Errol, Errol, shut up. I said, what? I screamed because I thought, oh my God, we're all in trouble here. And everybody looked at me They said, "What's the matter?" And it hit me. It's like, oh, I'm in a different country. I'm the only
Yeah.
one that's affected by this. And I made eye contact with the teacher, and I think he recognized. He's from. I think he was born in Jamaica and later moved here. But somehow I felt like he recognized what happened to me because he didn't even ask. He just looked at me, and I felt
Mm.
embarrassed and put my head down and started writing. I'm like, goodness, I would never forget. Because for me, I was like, you just told the teacher to shut up. Wow.
Yeah.
It all, oh yeah, we all in trouble, all of us. Yeah. Talking about you getting through, it's actually cool that you had that sort of easy transition. And so eventually, kind of fast forward, and you end up working for Ford, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So did all the education stuff, the things you're supposed to do as a good African boy,
Right, right, right.
go and do some learning, and you can't just study anything which the elders might not be too happy with. You got to do something which means you're clever and this and that, right? You got to impress somebody somewhere, right?
Yeah, well, I
Uh,
didn't do what they told me to do, but I still tried to impress them. I was aiming to be a doctor. It was like, everything
yeah,
taking me off the path.
uh, it was kind of, yeah. So I studied mechanical engineering at university, and then sort of went off and did a few years at Ford, designing engines, and mainly kind of doing research on
Mm,
improving engines and that kind of stuff. And really, it was there where I started to think, there's something not quite right with life as I'm experiencing it. Um, because I had a good job, I had good money, but happiness wasn't there,
mhm,
and I didn't have this inclination in me to go off and do the things as buy a house and car and
mhm,
the family, all that kind of stuff. It wasn't really. I didn't have that kind of drive. And it was really at Ford where I sort of started to see that there's something not just within me, but also with the society that we've set up,
mhm,
really,
mhm.
and that was the first time I realized that maybe the promised land isn't necessarily a promised land. you know what I mean?
It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, just so that I would say that was the start of kind of my spiritual inquiry
Mhm,
into what else is there. There's got to be something else, and um, I guess because I was brought up Christian.
mhm,
Um, Again, that was another thing which there was a lot of dogma, and
mhm,
it just didn't quite sit well with me, really. Um, and so I wanted to find a different way to express what was kind of inside, what was
mhm,
building up inside us.
mhm,
That discomfort kind of led to a rejection of all that kind of dogma until I decided to kind of just jack it all in and go traveling, um, which did wonders for me. Really, it
mhm,
did absolute wonders for me. Um, yeah, and it's kind of I went off to India for 6 months and just started to have the space to consider who I might want to be, who I am, and what
mhm,
else is out there, and the cosmos, and to kind of start to form my own ideas of what there could be, rather than settling for things that brought me discomfort or that I felt slightly not okay with. A lot of
mhm,
the kind of religious fundamentalist stuff that you get in Christianity, you get in most all religions. There's something not quite right about that, and I think yeah,
It's like, yeah, but no.
yeah, exactly. It's just no, I can't abide, as they say.
Mhm,
Yeah, so really, I'd say travel, and this was 10 years ago. Travel was the thing that really opened my eyes to the inner world. Let's say
mm,
the,
mm.
the
You
seeking divinity with union.
right. You stepped
How
out
do
of
you mean?
what was comfortable to find your inner world. Why India? What was it about India that made you say, "I want
I
to go to India"?
I have no idea. No idea. It was just a random act of escape.
A random act of escape.
Yeah, it's like I knew nothing about India. It's not because there were yogis there or there's I knew none
Gurus.
of that. Right? Yeah, none of and up until that point, I also my upbringing and my indoctrination is also about the sort of belief systems in Asia is also the devil stuff.
Hmm.
So it's not like I was chasing these kind of things because it was just an escape to go somewhere, and for some reason India was going to be it. So off I went, really.
So
Yeah.
I'm curious. Did you just say, "Okay, I'm going to travel," and did you then ask, "Where am I going to go?" Or did you just look at the map, or you just thought, "I'm going to travel," and India popped in your mind, and you said, "Yep, let me go buy a ticket." How did that go? Oh,
It was yeah. I decided, okay, I think I need to take some time out. I had some friends and this was quite nice. I had some friends who were also kind of feeling the same for different reasons.
hmm.
um, and they kind of suggested, well, we could go traveling because from an African background, traveling in that sort of way, backpacking, is not something that we really do.
Nope.
We mainly travel for economic reasons.
Hmm.
Which is understandable because of the sometimes the level of poverty, etc., that we get on the continent, right? So our only kind of driver for wanting to travel is for economic gains or education, right? To
Yes.
better your education. So this type of travel wasn't really on my radar at all. But it was kind of because my European friends around me, we sort of said, "Well, we could actually go traveling," and I was like, "All right, this sounds like quite good,
Hmm.
a good idea." Yeah, so it sort of opened my eyes to the fact that you can travel for other than economic gains, and then I kind of some of them were going to New Zealand, Australia, the kind of the standard stuff, really. But for some reason, I think I just looked on a map and decided, right, India.
Mm,
I,
mm.
maybe it called me, who knows? I don't know, because I had a few experiences there. But that's yeah, eh,
How were your parents about you being called by India? Did they think you lost your mind after working in Ford? You're a mechanical engineer, now you're traveling, backpacking, and don't even know why you're going there.
Well, so the I guess from I was lucky and unlucky, and I'll explain what that means. So essentially, both my parents have passed away. My mum passed away a couple of years before I went to India,
Mm,
and actually it was watching the way she passed on that also kind of pushed me a little bit because I saw her kind of devoutness into Christianity, but also to the system of consumerism, and you must. She had two jobs, doing day shift and the night shift,
mm,
that sort of stuff, and really striving to have the things and to be the things that other people wanted her to be,
mm,
even kind of against her health.
mm.
If being from an African background, once somebody makes it, they expect
Yep,
everybody back home they
yep.
expect it. Never mind how you're feeling or how
What
much you're
what bills
working.
you have?
You know what I mean? They expect. And I saw this real, yeah, just grind my mum down. So that was part of the thing. I
Mm,
was like, yeah, this is not for me.
mm,
So there wasn't any kind of resistance to go to India, and because I knew if I sort of say this sort of thing to my extended family, they just wouldn't get it, right?
mhm.
They wouldn't get it really
Right.
because it doesn't make sense. Why would you go leave a good job? Why would it doesn't make sense in that paradigm. So
Yes.
I just up sticks and went and didn't really tell anybody.
Sometimes I like that, it's like sometimes it's not going to make sense and you barely have enough information to give them. So why even bother telling them? Because they're not going to get it and you're not going to have all the answers they need. So you know what? I'm just going to have to do this myself. I have to go and
Exactly.
find out and tell you later.
Exactly.
Mm,
So that was it really. That kind of like it was easy in that sense because I could just get up and go.
mm.
Um,
So
yeah, and
your
then
stepfather had passed on too by then.
no, my stepfather was divorced from my mum,
Okay.
and he kind of moved. out of the country. I think somewhere in Asia
Okay.
actually.
Oh, interesting. Asia, you said?
I think so. Yeah.
Ah, interesting. What part? Maybe he was the one calling you, kind of like on a psychic
Maybe, maybe. You never know. I think like maybe Thailand, something like that. Maybe.
level. Okay, okay. So when you got to India, what was that like? Because that travel itself informs maybe mostly how you live now. But how did it, when you got there, what was the experience like for you? How did it impact you?
It was hot. I'll tell you that.
I wasn't
Right.
expecting that answer. Yeah, and then people are like, you're African, you're from Ghana. What do you mean it was hot? So if you're Ghanaian and say it was hot, then that's hot as hell.
Um, yeah. I mean, first impressions is not too dissimilar to, say places in Ghana once you get outside Accra and the capital, once you get outside those kind of well-built areas, there's a similar kind of, infrastructure levels and that sort of stuff. But in, India's just got this other layer thrown into it, which is the culture. It's a very unique culture, so there's lots of colors and um, the belief about the cows and stuff. So you get cows mixed into the street, and India happens at a very very different vibration to anywhere else that I've
Mm,
ever. So it was a bit of a, even for me it was a culture shock,
mm,
and I'm used to such kind of surroundings, let's say, but it's
mm,
just the culture and just, yeah, also I was obviously people seeing black people on TV and that sort of stuff. So, but not in real life in some parts of India. Some of the places in India I went was really, really kind of deepest, darkest India. So it's people haven't seen a black person before, and I'm quite dark skinned, so especially that they just, you stop for 1 minute and people, 50 people gather around you, observing, pointing, not speaking to you, just give running commentary about who you might be and whether you might be from South Africa or this or that. It was, yeah, it was interesting. Not for the faint-hearted, like especially if you're a dark-skinned African, it's not for the faint-hearted. Like, you've got to be prepared for some.
yes.
Yeah, people might make you think there's something wrong with you just because of the color of your skin. You know
Yes,
what I
it's
mean?
like, nah, you can't be real. You're too
Yeah,
dark to be human.
yeah, yeah,
You're
yeah.
something
So
else. Yeah.
yeah, that
Oh,
was that was big. That was but again, that was some of the things that were pushing me to ask the question, who am I? Who am I?
mm, mm.
To go beyond the physical into who I really am.
Yes,
That was
yes.
all kind of part of it. Yeah, and I have to say, for that, India has had a lot of teachings to give me, a lot of people who lived, who really, like, I mean, I wouldn't be a renunciate because I like things, but people who give up their entire lives to really focus on the path to seek union with God and
Mm,
renounce everything. There's no other country like it in the world where people are so focused on and we're not talking the dogmatic God or any of that stuff. We're talking, the divinity that you talk about. We're talking
right.
about the oneness, and people really spend time and dedicate lifetimes to really kind of get into that. And because of that, they develop, some of them, the real yogis develop some godly powers, which is
Mm,
incredible,
mm,
really. Um, and also, they there's this huge country with lots of different beliefs, but they seem to be able to coexist together. There's Muslims, there's Hindus, there's Buddhists, there's different aspects. This Hindu might prefer a certain deity or might worship another deity, and they all kind of coexist. It's the To attain spirit is a big thing in India in a way which is very different to the rest of the world for me. And those who, I mean, there's also dogma there, but those who really seek spirit, they really do seek union, and I found that quite inspiring, really.
mm. Wow. Wow. When you went, you said you were there for 6 months. Were you intending to stay there for 6 months, or were you just going there and see what happens, and then because you were backpacking too, right?
Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
was gonna do the standard. Let's go. Just do India for 30 days, and then do Thailand for a few days, and then blah, blah, blah. I was actually making my way to Papua New Guinea
Mm.
because I thought, it's quite interesting to have another piece of land on the other side of the world where there's black people, which is not Africa,
Right.
you know.
Mm.
So I was very, I was drawn to that. I wanted to kind of go into that kind of culture, but I I couldn't leave India. I started having these what I call spiritual experiences and these questions being answered about who I am and what is God and what all these kind of things, which were just falling into place. These epiphanies, and I couldn't leave really. I I started to wake up. Let's say.
Mm.
And,
Mm. So you said you had spiritual experiences about who you are. What are some of the things that you experienced that had you look at yourself differently and see yourself from a different perspective from growing up as a air quote air quotes Christian in Ghana?
yeah. Well, I mean, the biggest one. There was a few little things, but really the biggest one was kind of one experience through the night where I had these questions about what else is there? Is there only physical? And then the answers just kept coming, and the
Mm,
answer was no, there's not physical. And then my questions were, well, what's the nature of the not physical? And then it the epiphany of look the oneness of the universe is not just uh, an analogy. It really is one life. There isn't like individuals in it. It might appear to be individuals. We might be localized densities, but the part of us who we feel to be alive, the lifeness, the beingness in us, in each of us, is exactly the same in everything else. It's not another one like it. It's exactly the same. It's you. There's only one us.
mm,
And that was a huge, huge, huge epiphany for me. Where it's like, right, okay. And then it kind of went into a bit more about the mechanics of the physical universe and the various living planes. I knew nothing about say the astral plane, for example, but I started to get answers about how these planes are. And yeah, really, it was huge. And I think the biggest one, this can come across as blasphemous if you're not careful in certain schools, but really that each individual person, we are God, we are that divinity. You know what I
mhm.
mean?
Yes, I do.
And it took me a while to really kind of accept that equality with something which up until then I'd been told is outside of me, and it's almost some kind of man with a stick ready to punish me,
Mm,
to change from that mindset into you are that creative force which is realizing itself. It is you. It was huge. It was huge. And from that I was like, okay, conceptually at least, I feel I know God. And
mhm,
then I kind of made it my aim to experience that in reality, in the sense that I can be the microcosm, which is man, human, Kevin man, and to be able to step into the macrocosm, which is the all, and to experience that bliss. That's has kind of made it my point to get there, and that's the
mhm,
journey really that this started.
mm.
Yeah.
And the experiences that you were having that were happening during the night.
Yeah, yeah. They were kind of nighttime stuff. Just I would say it started meditation. I wouldn't really call it meditation. Just kind of
Mhm,
lying there in quietness. But I the first time it sort of happened, I felt this. You get this sound in your ear. I don't know. I guess the Hindus call it Om or whatever. And every now and again, it gets a bit loud, and then
mhm,
it just turned into a rushing water sound. And then this information started coming, and I was like, "Wow, okay, well, I
mm.
better write some of this down, right?" So,
Right, right.
yeah, they became various books and that sort of stuff. But it was through meditation, through silent contemplation, and connecting with Source.
Yeah.
The best way to put it.
And part of those experiences is in your book, right? The Monsoon Diaries, an
Yes,
African in
yes,
India, an African in Indian. I like an
an African.
African in India. I like
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
Ah,
Yeah, those experiences are kind of written in that book. And then I mean the kind of the learnings that came after that is in the other book, the Pocket Book of Little Big Things, which sort of
mhm,
tried to synthesize all that kind of learning, because the Monsoon Diaries, it's about the travel and the experiences, and the pocketbook is about synthesizing all of that into concise bits of information that
Mm,
can help people.
mm. So I want to ask you this, that because you talk about, getting a new understanding of yourself and
Mm,
who and what God is through meditation. And there
mm,
might be some people listening saying, when I meditate, I didn't have that kind of experience. I get distracted, I start getting fidgety. So, so I want to stay with that a little bit. And were you meditating before you went to India, or did it start?
no,
So it
no,
started there.
yeah, I was boozing and drugging my way through London.
That was your meditation, boozing and drugging.
Yeah, there was no
Meditation
meditation.
for the unenlightened, boozing and drugging.
It wasn't even on my radar that there is such a thing as meditation or any of that
Mhm,
sort of stuff. It was just like, yeah. So it wasn't. But I think the best way I can put it really is I was in a space where I had removed myself from my daily worries. I
mm,
was lucky enough to be able to remove myself. So in the daytime, all I was experiencing was predominantly just freedom, right?
mm,
Freedom and not the pressure of work or the pressure of where the next bit of money is coming from, that sort of stuff. So I was
mm,
lucky in that sense. I saved up to do it, but still lucky in that sense, um, so I think with that kind of pressure removed, then it made it easier for me to be able to sit in silence, And it's the reason that some yogis go into the mountains for years, because
mm,
the distraction is not there. It's not, yeah. So I think for me that was. But then once you've kind of felt something, then it's easier to sit down and meditate because you know
yes.
that there can be a result.
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
yes. Yeah. And
yeah,
your journey there was also to find, you went seeking, you were
yes.
looking for happiness. There was an intention to find yourself. So
Yeah,
all the boozing and drugging and this, yeah, I have money, but I'm not happy. All that brought you to a point where you were
yeah,
receptive to another way of living. So it's not like you just suddenly got there and then you became, oh, this person who can tap in. There are things that have
no,
been happening in the past that prepared you for what's to come, right?
exactly that. Well put, well put.
Mm.
I was kind of primed, and I think like it would be. Can I just kind of in here just mention about the Packback Society,
Oh,
because this
sure,
this
definitely.
is exactly the reason why. So 30% of the money I get from all my books, I'm putting into the Packback Society to
Mm,
to basically fund people to go on backpacking trips. Between
mm,
4 and 12 weeks, let's say, of different backpacking trips, so that people can, those interested, especially Africans and also Asians, so anybody who consider themselves a minority, really, and you know what I mean by that,
mhm,
to be able to have the funds to go and explore who they are. And it's exactly that, because I realized that if I hadn't removed myself from the daily pressures in that sort of way, I, I don't know what would have happened. And
mhm,
that's why I want to give the same opportunity to others like me, in that sense, who might be from an African background or Asian background or minority background, who are struggling with who they are and struggling with the society and the systems that they're in, but they don't really want to be in and they don't agree with it. That's the
mm,
whole point of the Packback Society. Sorry, I
mm.
thought I'd shoehorn that in there because it was a perfect opportunity.
No, it is perfect. It is perfect because really, for me, what I hear is this: not only did you set out to have a different experience of life and of yourself, really, it's changed your life, and the fact that now you receive something that you want people to experience, if those who want it, it's like
Big time.
it's giving and receiving is one and the same. So somebody might go backpacking, and it may not have to do with finding himself or trying to unite with God. It just could be just to have the experience. And as you said,
Exactly.
as Africans, backpacking is not necessarily the things that we do.
No.
I can hear me telling my dad I want to go backpacking. Kilo nshie, I want bolo nshie now. Like, which means what's wrong with you? Only white
It's
people
like,
do that. What you mean
yeah,
backpacking? I can
yeah,
hear him
yeah.
talk to my sisters like, big boy sorrow now. Like, talk to your brother. What is wrong with him?
That's,
Going backpacking? Why? Don't think
yeah.
I've lost my mind.
Exactly. Exactly. But there's so much to gain from it. There's so
Yes.
much, like I say, not just the spiritual stuff, but also the joy, the connection, the friendships, the ideas you get, from seeing what other people are doing, other ways of life,
Mm.
the wisdom you can get is huge. Is huge. And I think as Africans, we're predominantly missing out on that. And I'd like to be able to help out in that sort of way.
Do you offer like sort of like a pre-training, if you will, sort of like a workshop to kind of prepare people for the
Yeah.
journey?
Yeah, so at the moment, I'm still in the planning phase.
Okay.
So I'm going to be doing a webinar in the next couple of months to go through all of that. So yeah, we'll be looking for mentors, so people like me, like you, who've been there, done that, who
Hmm.
are willing to mentor some of the kind of new applicants
Hmm.
through breaking through beliefs that they hold that are not so conducive to finding one's divinity, and working through and those kind of cultural barriers, especially as well, to come out the other side and
Yeah.
be confident and be brave and be courageous to be able to live your own life and not be this puppet, like a blank canvas where everybody
Mm.
just comes and paints on.
Mm.
So we'll be kind of providing mentoring and advice, and the whole idea is that um, for those who cannot afford travel, we provide the funds, but also we'll do the visa applications and the jabs and the insurance and all that sort of stuff
Wow.
for them. So that
Wow.
it's really just go out there, but there will be some anthropometric kind of exercises that come along with that, in the sense that it is a bit of free travel, but you do have a project to do, and the project is um, under various headings. So, for example, spirituality would be one of them, ecology would be another one, education, social structures. So you go out, depending on what your inclinations are, to learn something about yourself and the world that will help you in your future to become who you want to be.
Wow.
So yeah, there's a whole process that we go through in a webinar
Mm.
as to how it works. But that's essentially it. And when people get back, they would provide some content for our website, whether it's a video blog or a standard blog or some other creative output about what they've learned.
That is pretty awesome. I mean, I could feel the bigness of it, the just the energy of it as I listen. It's like using backpacking as a pathway for people to find themselves, return to themselves, if you
Yeah,
will,
yeah,
and also connect with other people in the world, maybe somewhere they wouldn't have gone before. A place
exactly.
that maybe they had the idea but weren't brave enough to move forward. I mean, that's
Yeah,
really big. I
yeah.
commend you, man.
Thank you, thank you. And like in our culture, in African culture and Asian culture especially, like you were saying, if you want to go traveling, people they're not people around you who will be encouraging you. They will be, "What are you doing? You're just wasting your life. You're wasting this," and it's the I know that there are people like this out there because I've been there, and it's not a nice place to be to put your what you want to do at a at the back of your mind, to do things which you don't really agree with, but you have
Right,
to do it because
right.
some culture says you have to. And it's like, well, where did culture come from? People just made it up. So you
That's
can make
right.
up your own culture.
That's right. And culture is meant to change and evolve. It doesn't need to stay the
Yeah,
same because
exactly.
when it stays the same, then you create space for oppression. Just kind of
Exactly.
all kind of foolishness. So I am
Yeah.
with you. Now,
Yeah.
I feel like I want to go just follow you moment by moment, day by day on your journey, but it doesn't quite work like that right now. But we
Yeah.
could definitely do that. So, but I do want to kind of maybe fast forward to 6 months later, and you've gotten to a place where you really understand your own spiritual nature. You begin to
Mm.
see life differently. Tell us about that journey where you returned back to yourself in a new way
Yeah.
and how
Yeah.
it's affecting, influencing what you do now.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, I think really when I got back, obviously I wanted to change the world, right? Because I've been traveling. got my dreadlocks. So now I've got to change the world.
Okay, yeah, you keep talking. I'm not going to say anything about that because I have no idea what you're talking about. So go ahead.
Like, so I kind of wanted to change the world because I was in a very very kind of spiritual state, and
Mhm,
so I one of the things I got into social enterprise, which is basically the
mhm,
Pac-Man Society is a social enterprise. So I started a business to which is a charity, but we imported some goods from India and then kind of use our profits to help run some various projects in India.
mhm,
But that run for 6 years, and that was great and everything. But the biggest lesson that I learned from that, and really, this lesson has been 10 years in the making since I got back from India, and it's only really clicked in the last couple of years,
mhm,
was that even with all that conceptual awareness of who I am, who I want to be, etc., I was still trying to change the external.
mhm,
You know, I was prodding at the external, trying to change it, and it's not working. And then it's not until 2 years ago where I realized, hang on a minute,
mhm,
let me just take a step back. And yes, we can all theorize that happiness, etc., it's on the inside, not the outside. But it's you know
mhm.
what I mean?
Yep.
The experience of it, you need to
Mhm,
go through something to make that wisdom. And from everything I learned, I thought, right, let me go back to the actual cause. Everything
mhm,
around me that I want to change is coming from within me, is a reflection of my state in some way, the internal cause, my thinking, my belief systems. So then out 10 years later, I took a step back away. Okay, you can set up a charity or a social enterprise or whatever in the world which is ill, let's say,
mhm,
and you might have some impact, but it is not going to be a lasting cultural impact because the belief systems that are still in the world are the
mhm,
same as before,
mhm.
right? So then I went into really a state of actual self work. So I stopped the doing pure and more working on myself to uproot those unhealthy belief systems about myself, my people, my culture. Even things like thinking about lack. It's so easy to say, "Oh, we don't have much money." How many times do we say these things? And they, of course, they're going to manifest. And so now, really, through I've been using techniques like EFT, which is kind of tapping and
Yes.
meditation and journaling to really work on my discomforts and beliefs so that what then transpires on the outside is a true reflection of what is on the inside. Otherwise, it'll never really be lasting change. You know what I mean? It'll be
Right. I do.
Maya.
I do. I
Yeah.
do. Yeah, I get it. I'm so there with you. I understand. It's like the spiritual journey. I mean, for me, I feel like it's a journey, is an experience that breaks you down if you really surrender to it, if you commit to it.
Mm,
And sometimes that could sound scary, like, oh, I don't want to be broken down. But really, the process of life is when we surrender to it, we must come undone.
yeah.
And there's really, look, well, the way I see it, let me say it this way. So I know that the path that I'm on, I chose it. I don't want any other path. I like what I'm learning, even though there's a lot of challenges sometimes. That
Mm,
sometimes I wish I can just do the thing that looks like it's simple to me. But I value
mm,
my energy and my time and being aligning my, if you will, my spirituality with my humanity. So I can't
yeah.
easily bypass things, and that's can be challenging. But either way,
Yeah.
they all have their cost, if you will,
Yeah.
and it's not cost as a punishment. It's not cost as a deficit. It's not consequences. That's all. It's consequences. You can keep doing the same thing you're doing and not liking it, and you say, well, at least I'm getting to pay my bills. Great. And that doesn't mean being on a spiritual path you don't get to pay your bills, but there might be some things that come up sometimes that you may think, if you had a job or if you were just
Mm,
doing what everybody else is doing, what the world is asking you to do, then it would be easier. Maybe.
yeah.
But it's a personal choice. It's a
Yeah.
personal choice to be willing to integrate what we know on a deeper level. I
Yeah.
personally believe that that's why we're here. We're here to marry the spiritual self with the human self, the physical self. and in
Exactly.
that we birth a new reality, we birth a new experience, we birth a new world. Yes, we
Yeah.
can change the world, and we start by changing how we see the world, and we change how we see the world because we change how we see it ourselves and doing the inner work.
Exactly. Exactly. And I would say that's number one priority. If there's anything I've learned on this whole journey is the inner work, and it's not all roses either. It's not it's not all. It can be difficult to look at yourself sometimes and think, is it really me causing this? Because yes, there is the collective consciousness as well, which sometimes we're
Yes.
we're we're, we're up against in a way,
Mhm.
but individually, that there are beliefs that if we dig down, we hold, which is manifesting it. So because that's what we are, like you say, we are the creator experiencing itself as a creator.
That's right.
You know,
That's
we
right.
are that's the
Yes.
game. You know, and the creator creates through thought. Like the Big Bang, the universe came out of the thoughts of the creator. You know what I mean? Which is what we are. That's how we create. And
Yes.
so the fundamental part really is to fix the beliefs and thoughts before going forward to do anything to the physical universe, let's say,
Yeah.
right?
And recognizing the Big Bang is happening every day, every moment. When you have a moment, you go, oh my God, I got it. That's a Big Bang right there. That's the beginning of a new world. Yeah.
Exactly, and it's really, and it's quite interesting what you were saying in the podcast previously about calling back your energy. So calling back your energy that we've put into my job is this and that, or this person is that. Call back that energy into yourself and use it to focus on what is in you, which is bringing up what beliefs are in you, which is bringing up these manifestations. and
Hmm.
and it's really and when I started to do this, I realized that yes, we are infinite energy, but I've put a lot of it into a lot of unnecessary things and just untrue beliefs
Yes.
you
Yes.
know
Yes, we've been molded and cultured and domesticated to see things a certain way, and it's ingrained in us that sometimes trying to break away from it, we feel like we're breaking away from ourselves, from our family members,
yeah,
from true
yeah,
values, and it's scary
yeah,
until you meet somebody else who can say, "I've been there, I am there, I'm walking the same journey," and,
yeah,
and we live in a time where all of this can't be hidden anymore. I mean,
no,
we can get distracted because I believe we live in a world now where there is greater opportunity to connect in a deep way. And that's why
mhm,
social media is so powerful. However, we can get easily distracted in following and liking and loving and watching videos that we miss what's underneath that. That this is a moment for us to connect in a real way. And as we
yeah,
start to connect and really get to know more about people, we realize that most of us had some dark past and things are
mm,
coming up, like the Me Too experience, and things are
yeah,
coming up. And as we move forward, we have to come up with another way of creating space for learning, for healing, for
mm,
understanding, not just counseling people, not just because someone did something that as a society we call horrible and bad and should never happen to anyone, and then they can never do anything to work anymore. We can't broadcast their shows anymore. Okay, that's a
mm,
phase, but I know that there will come a time where I just know it because life is going to be life through us, whether we like it or not. There's going to
yeah,
come a time where we can listen and maybe even recognize that some of the things we're judging and demonizing about another actually lives in us. And
yeah,
or
yeah,
maybe we've done it. We're just not we're not a celebrity, so most people don't really care about the fact that we did. It's like, okay, so what? Yeah, well,
yeah,
go tell the police and you bye bye. But if you're a celebrity, then that's magnified. And
mm,
as you said at the big, kind of like the beginning of the podcast, is the more we understand our connection, our interconnection, that everything
mm,
is connected, I think we start to make different choices. And we are, you know, I really believe that humanity is, of course, growing and expanding, evolving, and we are there. But oftentimes talking about spiritual stuff is not always sexy. Now, if you try to make it sexy, well, let me say, if you try to make it sexy, I wonder how authentic it is. That's my personal belief. I mean, because
Yeah.
it can be sexy, but it's more messy compared
Mm,
to the kind of life that we've been taught to live.
yeah.
Because sometimes you don't know if you're healing or you're sick or you're doubting yourself or just old
Yeah.
stuff coming up to be released when you're.
And oh, yeah,
She's like,
that's
which
another
one
one,
is
isn't
it?
it?
You say what?
Old stuff. Sorry, just to cut. There's another
No,
one
you
with
can.
the old stuff coming up, right? Sometimes
Yes.
you work on something, you think you've worked on it, and then boop, it shows up again in another
Yes.
guise.
Hmm.
That is
Yes,
huge.
it
Oh my
is.
god.
It is. And, for me, it's like finding
Yeah.
the compassion in them, even if I've been working on it or I think I've been working on it. Sometimes it's not really the same thing. It's just a sort of similar energy. Like,
Mm.
there's a saying where they say God doesn't give you more than you can handle. And I think
Mhm.
everything we come against that breaks us down, that challenges us, in that moment, we're able to deal with it based on what we have, what we know, what we understand. And when we have a
Yeah.
deeper understanding, I feel like, as we spiral up in our spiritual evolution, we'll come
Yeah.
back to that. It's like, okay, now we have a broader perspective to handle this. We can say, oh my God, I can't believe I'm still dealing with this, or understand that, I remember leaving UK and going to India, didn't know anybody. I didn't know what the hell I was going to do. And what I received was so much more. So there's this sort
Yeah.
of like, okay, let me trust in that something that got me through. Let me trust in something that's going to, bring me to a place that brings me peace of mind. And
Yeah.
it is hard to trust in something we don't see, something we can't touch. But that's
Yeah.
that's really what it's about.
Yeah. And also, actually, talking about metaphysics and that sort of stuff. Um, it's we can't see and we can't touch it in a physical sense, but we can definitely experience. And I can give you an example where I know for sure that the part of me that I see as me can exist outside of my body through outer body experiences where it's not a
Mhm.
dream, it's an outer, and through such experiences I am sure that we don't die, you know, and then we can exist, or we do exist outside these confines that we've called the body, and I think those experiences can be very, very helpful to cement the faith. So it's not just being asked to have blind faith, but you need to do the work in order to have the experiences.
Yes, yes, exactly. And the thing about faith itself is not even blind; it's inner vision. Faith
Yeah, yeah,
is seeing the invisible and
mm,
holding true to the invisible. So ain't nothing blind about faith.
yeah, yeah,
There ain't nothing blind about faith. Sometimes people are working and they feel like it's time to leave that job, but they haven't found another one. And they'll call and say, hey, I just want to tell you I've left my job in faith. Basically, what they're saying is, I left my job, I don't have another one, and I'm hoping, wishing I will find the right job at the right time. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And faith is recognizing that though it's not hasn't manifested in the physical form yet, I already see it and I'm holding that vision in my
yeah,
mind. Then it
yeah,
has no choice but to manifest. You shared earlier, we create with thoughts. Every thought we think is creating at some level.
yeah,
So it's important, if we know that, to be aware of what we're thinking. So
yeah,
if you have a vision and you hold that vision, eventually it's going to manifest. Time, how long? Well, who knows? But it just depends on how attached you are to it.
yeah.
If you're
And
super,
this is where it's also important to learn about the mechanics of in metaphysics, the mechanical part of manifestation and metaphysics, because once you know these truths and once you understand these truths, then you can operate on them, and yes,
yes,
everything is thought. The infinite potential field, which is thought, is where we first create our things and then it manifests out into the physical universe, So
yes,
yeah, it really is kind of the space to be. And faith. This is really why I like gratitude, because recently I've learned that gratitude. What if you're gratitude? Once you if you're grateful for something, you automatically transform your psychology to be in a
Mhm.
state where you've already received it, because you only really thank people when they've given you something, right?
Mhm.
So by transferring, almost kind of just playing with your ego mind a little bit, and making yourself understand that you've already received it,
Yes.
you're in alignment with the field of the thing having already been, because the thing is already. And so if you're panicking and in the state of want, one of the things I advise is to step into gratitude, because gratitude automatically triggers the completion of the thing, and
Hmm.
that's a different vibration to a want, you
Yeah,
know.
exactly. Yes. Gratitude is recognizing what is available in front of you instead of focusing on what you think is missing. And
Yeah,
I know that for me, when I focus on what is available, what is present, I'm often blown away. Like, wait a minute. I mean, I end up being grateful for my bed,
yeah,
being grateful for my pillow,
yeah,
being grateful because I have soap or shower gel. Like, oh my God, normally I don't think about it. I'm grateful for the hot water. When
yeah,
I don't have is when I recognize how important it is. But if we start to kind of just work with our minds and just understand how things work, as you said, the mechanics of this metaphysical laws, it's like, I can be grateful for so much. I'm grateful that I don't have any pain right now. For me, being grateful for this conversation, being grateful
yeah,
for people who are going to listen to this and it will shift something for them. And gratitude opens us to so much more.
yeah,
Unfortunately, or fortunately, we live in a society, the Western world, where it's about capitalism. And when we get
yeah,
caught up in that, which is the lack, there isn't enough, I need more, I need more, I need more, I need more. Then once you think I need more, then you're always gonna think you need more. There
yeah,
is always more, but there's a difference between thinking I need more from a place of lack, I need more, I may not get it, and
mm,
and from another perspective of abundance, of gratitude, saying I need more and it's going to show up at the perfect time. This is two
yeah,
different thinking.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It really is. It really is. And to talk about consumerism and capitalism, no matter if this kind of mindset, which we've somehow picked up, doesn't change, no matter what we do in the future, if we go to the future with the same kind of lacking and not enough mindset, that will
Mhm.
just keep manifesting. We can be using having all the solar power we want, all the wind energy we want, all the whatever we want. But if the mindset is still of competition and of want, then people are still going to be struggling to pay for their bit of wind energy. You know what I mean?
Yes, most definitely, most
And this is
definitely.
what I mean. It comes down to the mindset. If
Yeah.
if if the mindset is not changed, the same outcomes will transpire, and there will still be people in poverty, even though we get all our energy from the wind and the sun. It
Yes,
really is the mindset that
it is the
requires change
mind.
in
It
each
truly is.
individual.
Wherever you go, there you are.
Yeah,
Wherever you
yeah,
go, there you are with your
yeah.
mindset, with how you see the world. When you move somewhere, maybe the first few months you're like, oh, it's a new place, I can reinvent myself. But if you don't continue to work on your mindset, the habits will pop up and you start doing the same thing and you start seeing the same people you moved from, just in a different expression. You're like, oh, you remind me of my neighbor that I couldn't stand. Where did you come from? Because you are the one created, attracting that same vibration, that same energy. It's
Yeah.
something we have to deactivate that. We're getting ready to release this conversation, but I want to really, because we've talked, we've got, we have to continue this conversation. There's going to be part two.
100%. 100%. There's a
um,
lot of things that we can get into, metaphysical stuff and about death
yes,
and all these things which people have
yes,
such a wrong idea about, that it would be great to just converse about.
indeed. But however, I do want to kind of take all of what you just said there and put it in a nutshell. As a Ghanaian, I don't know what it was like there, the traditional spiritual practice. I know about Nigeria, where for me, I grew up being told it was evil.
Yeah.
Um, what did you learn about your own culture, your spirituality, your tradition then, and how is it different now?
Right. Okay. So, I mean, when the Bible, before the Bible came, there was something. When the Bible came, we all became Christian fundamentalists, right? And to this day, I was brought up with Christian fundamentalists, where the Bible is word for word, and there's the devil and fire raining from the heavens, all this kind of stuff, right? And anything to do with contacting nature which is also divine. Anything to do with working with nature is worshiping the devil, is this, that is evil, and then recently really looking into post or pre-Christian Africa, especially in Ghana, in the Ashanti um, kingdom. There's a lot of symbols that the Ashantis use to describe, much in the same way that the Hindus use various symbols. Not just the Hindus, the Buddhists, even the Aborigines use various symbols to describe certain aspects of the creative force. And I'm starting to find a lot of similarities. For example, there's two things. There's one Ashanti symbol called Jinyami, which is similarly eerily similar to the Om symbol in Hinduism, and it basically means only God, and that stands for the whole thing we were talking about, that there is only God. We are everything. Is only There's only one thing, right? And we've called it God. You can call it energy, whatever, but and it's really kind of similar to the Om sound, which is the creative force, right? And there's another one called Sankofa, which is this bird, which is looking back at an egg. And really, when I looked into it, it's about the cyclical nature of being, where we go from, it's an evolutionary cycle. So we come from spirit to experience physical, enjoy the physical, then go back to spirit, then start to get the different game. And I'm seeing all these really, really, really kind of deep philosophical concepts in a lot of the Ashanti and a lot of African symbology, which was never there before. Our forefathers and mothers knew this stuff. They
Yes,
they were they were Christ's
that's right.
consciousness. They
Yes,
understood that,
yes.
and for some reason, we've just let go of all of that for some dogmatic nonsense. Which, if you
Hmm.
don't really go beyond the dogma and you take the dogma, you're screwing yourself really. And
Hmm.
there is some very interesting Christian mysticism, but you need to
Yes,
go beyond that. Just like the Muslims need to go beyond that to Sufism, to get into
yes.
the esoteric stuff, not the exoteric dogmatic
Hmm.
nonsense. And I
Hmm.
think all that knowledge is a global knowledge, isn't it? And that was in Africa before. So I'm having a newfound respect for our ancestors and what they knew, because
Yes,
they knew it all.
yes. The great thing about it is people like you and I of bringing back that wisdom. That, I mean, I say bring, I don't even want to say bringing it back, because it's ever present. Every thought that's been thought is in the ethers, but what we're doing, I believe, we're giving voice to it. We're giving
Yes,
voice to it. We're standing by it. We're affirming it. We're saying this is the way it is. And
exactly.
we're living in some good times. It is definitely time to release this conversation, and we're going to have part two, and maybe next week.
Yeah,
We'll
why
just
not?
see. Okay, then. So next week we're gonna have part two and continue this conversation, because I felt you, Kevin. You were like, really. It was like you just got started going. You were going there. I was like, woo! Listen to that energy. So yes. Your website address, Kevin, is pack back, right? Society dot.
Um, now, if you just go to kevinkcheeseman.com, then kind of
Okay.
you can navigate around the website. There's books, and then there's information on the Pat Back Society and all sorts of things there. Yeah, but the best place is to go to kevinkcheeseman.com and navigate your way around.
Kevin K. Cheese, as in cheese
Yeah,
sandwich, Cheese
yeah.
Man. Yep,
What a
that will.
name for a black man.
Well, like I told you, when I saw your name, Cheeseman, I'm like, did he add that name? Is this his pen name or something? A Ghanaian with the name of Cheeseman? I've never even heard that name before until I met you. It's like, that's a you. Have you ever traced the ancestry, where that name came
Oh,
from?
it's easy. They used to make cheese. That's what they
he
used to
said, he said it's not that complicated, okay? It's not that deep. Okay, got it. All right. And sometimes I just be looking for deep stuff and stuff that I don't need to be going deep into. You're like, no, 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 relax. No, no, no. They used to make cheese, okay? That's how they became the cheese man.
make.
All right, we'll move along. All right, my brother, I appreciate you. I've really enjoyed this
Thank
conversation.
you.
And I look forward to continuing with you next week.
Definitely. And thank you. It's been such a pleasure talking to you, Adi. It's always very enlightening to speak to you and warming because it shows that we're on we're on a path to divinity, and it's nice to share it with everyone, especially
Yes.
coming from our background. It's nice
Yes.
to really get into that. So thank you so much for that.
You're very welcome, my brother. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, psychics and skeptics, physical beings and non-physical beings, thank you for tuning in, for being a part of this conversation, adding your energy to it. Even though you are listening to this after we've recorded it, everything is energy. There is no past, there is no future when it comes to energy. Everything is happening now. So thank you for the energy that you're contributing to this conversation. And I want to invite you to subscribe to the podcast, leave your feedback, and don't forget to check out lifecoachade.com, lifecoachade.com for my upcoming online classes. And I'm also going to be having new ones that I'm going to add to my website. Vision with Action is a 10-week creative transformative journey, but they're going to be ones with one-off, like maybe once a month or something. But check it out. And we're getting ready to release the conversation. John Stringer is coming up. You Are Welcome Here is the title of the song. To find out more about John, go to his website, John Stringer, like string. He plays the guitar. John Stringer Inc. INC.com. I love you. I bless you. I appreciate you. And I thank God for you. Peace and blessings.
May seem now, but when we are one, we bring more good about. No matter who or what you call yourself or where you come from, yeah. There is a place in this world with open arms right now. Welcome to love, welcome to peace, welcome to our community. Be who you are, let your light shine.